Hello out there in Nala land. We commence our conclusion of Kelm. Well, actually, the story is not going to end because we're going to continue it even further with the story of Rav Dessler, his biography. That was the latest idea we're going to pose here. Today's shiur is Le'inishus Rachalea Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Allah Shalom. We want to thank the Nala staff, in particular Mrs. Libby Bamja, who runs the studio over here in Jerusalem. We continue. It's important to remember the principles that the Alter from Kelm set into place. Bear in mind that the Alter from Kelm was the oldest of the disciples of Shel Salanter. Many point to the fact he was probably the closest to Rabbi Yisrael, about which Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, you are perfect, without a blemish. He said that pasuk in Shir Shirim, that is referring to the Alter from Kelm, Simcha Zisel Ziv. His name actually was Brody. Later it was changed to avoid problems of being drafted into the army. The perfection of the Alter from Kelm. And he took this ability to be a lion tamer, to not lose focus, into the yeshiva. It was a small yeshiva. The Talmud Torah of Kelm deliberately was called a Talmud Torah. Whereas Slobodka, there was 500 Talmidim. His work, which was explained that he could take a student apart screw by screw and then refashion him, that could only be done with a select group of young boys, which was in the Beis Medrash in the Talmud Torah of Kelm. And we will also talk about the major disciples of Kelm. Rabbi Rosenham is one of them. There's also, of course, Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein, Rabbi Yerucham, Rabbi Lapian, we'll talk about today, Bezer Hashem, and the poster child will leave for last, Rabbi Eliezer Dessler. Okay, another thing we want to remember is how Kelm stressed order and discipline. The idea of laziness is a reflection of mental sloth. You can get rid of the former, you can get rid of the latter. And you cannot have a desire to a path of greatness. It will inhibit drive, ambition, and search for perfection if you're plagued with laziness. And the Alter very much stressed the idea of shiur haratzon, breaking your attributes. We mentioned last time, he would do some personal examples such as after a fast day, he would eat little fish which had very, very bony. And that, because you're hungry, you want to eat and you have to play with the bones, that means breaking your character. He did not consume fruit soup because he once lusted for it. Also in yeshiva there is shiur haratzon, expression of anything which is a physical pleasure. And the antidote is shiur haratzon. In Kelm it was a practice you did not open a letter the day that it was received, no matter how much you anticipated this letter to break your will. I don't know if you fell off your chairs or not, but I'm going to say that one more time. In Kelm, a letter was not opened the day that it was received, no matter how much you anticipated the arrival of this letter. And today, as soon as a computer dings, you have mail, you jump for that email, even though it could be about a medication you don't want, you don't need, you don't want to know about, but people are just instant gratification. There was an advertisement when I was a kid on my neighbor's TV for Cracker Jacks, and this big, fat, obnoxious kid would say, I want it, and I want it now! Now! Do you want gratification now? We can't. In Kelm, that was antithetical. There's no concept in Kelm of chilling. There's no such thing. You have to have a plan and a program, and instant is not going to work. Furthermore, very important to Kelm, before I get to the idea of student maintenance, I want to explain something here, that Kelm was a program. We will conclude with this when we talk about how you can hitch your dream to a star. Then we have a whole lifetime to do it. We mentioned last time, I believe it was, that the Alter from Kelm pointed out that Yom Kippur was dafka. It fell out smack dab in the middle of harvest season. Now it's hard for us to fully appreciate this because we're not an agrarian society. But if you would be the son or daughter of a accountant, we're talking about American accounting, not accountancy from England, and the deadline, of course, is April 15th, and Yom Kippur will fall out April 13th. To maintain your composure at a time the day which requires the greatest concentration, then when your mind is so much, I have to get these returns in. If this doesn't relate to you, if you can't relate to this, then I would suggest if you're a business person, if Yom Kippur will fall out on December 23rd, to think on Yom Kippur what you have to think about, not thinking about the market and how many people are coming in your business and sales that are so critical to you. This was something that was so critical to Kelm, the idea of shiur haratzon, breaking your mind and your will to be subservient to the will of God. Now, because it was a program, it was just very much against the quick, the instant. Today, the diet which is hot is a diet where you lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. No one wants a life plan. But that's precisely what Kelm was. It was a life plan. You have to constantly and dynamically and perpetually always try and fine-tune and tweak a little better your personality, your character, your moral sensitivity. I'm going to give you an analogy. I'm going to say this in depth because I just read this in a book, Tipping Point, and it's a really, I think, a contemporaneous example which explains the idea very well, how you have to be able to change something in its entirety and not a cosmetic change. In the 1980s, crime was very, very at its peak. In America, it began to decline in the 1990s. Violent crime began to decline. However, in New York City, crime